Oh, hello.
Hello, hello.
Well, welcome, both of us back. It's been a minute. It's been a
I'm
minute.
welcoming myself back.
Yes, as we
Yes.
should. It took me a minute to find the right buttons because it's been over a month since we did the stream. We took some time off. What have you been up to?
Oh yeah. Like a lot. I went to London for a week, which was hectic because there's like 500 people in London we had to see. But do you know the thing where you take a vacation and you come back and you're like, I need a vacation for my vacation?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was kind of like
I
that.
had a staycation during our
Oh,
month off that I needed a vacation from.
how was that?
It was busy. I got a lot of stuff done, but it wasn't restorative in any way. It was it was just like 6 months of backlog of personal stuff that I
Oh,
needed to do. Nothing bad, just, like oil changes and yard work and all that all that stuff. It took a week off to just kind of get that done.
right.
So I was busy. But
Well, I imagine it was a good feeling to like have that all done.
yeah, at the end of it, it was good. I was like, "Okay, now I can focus on work for a while and ignore my yard," which
Yes.
which my backyard needs to be mowed pretty bad right now. So
Uh, by the way, we took a month off, so we did I think like two-ish months of like
mhm.
back to back streams, and we took a month off. Does that mean we're now in season two?
I think so. I think that's
Okay,
fair to say. Season two.
all right, season two. Let's go.
I'll update the names. Season two, S2, episode one.
Episode one. Yeah. So what's on the menu for today?
The menu for today is I attended a little bit of it, but you attended more of it, the Plumbers Conference. So we'll dive into that.
Yes.
We'll start with what that is because it's not super obvious by the name. So we'll talk about that, some highlights from there related to WebAssembly. And then we'll probably do some side questing because I'd like to hear a little bit more about your miniature 30% keyboard. And hopefully some people watching care as much as we do about keyboards. And then we'll probably go into a little planning session. So we talked on Friday.
Mhm.
Today is officially Monday, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Um, about like where we want to do or where we want to go, what we want to do. And so we kind of settled on trying to build an example repository for some
Mhm.
WebAssembly stuff. And then that way we can also highlight a lot of the different ways that we can deploy and put that in something more concrete than just a simple live stream. Like, oh, we did check out Spin, but it's episode 14 and a 90-minute long, more of a concrete thing that we can refine over time
Yes.
and then use in various forms. So that we'll probably go through a planning session on that, like what that application would look like, how we want to do the repository, what the next steps are. We could even just create a repository and start using GitHub's project feature to kind of start backlogging some of those tasks. And then a
Yeah.
lot of the live streams in the future will probably be towards that end. So people will get to see us kind of building the project, running into the rough edges, and then the iterative process to polish that into something hopefully useful as someone can take that repository and then use it to figure out how to onboard WebAssembly components and so forth into their environments and deploy them successfully. So that's I think that's the gist. Yeah.
I almost felt like, we were like going like the infomercial route, but it's like us from Microsoft would recommend using Microsoft GitHub's planner feature. It's like, no, I know that's not how you meant it, but I was like, oh God. But yeah, no, it sounds great. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Although I guess GitHub is owned by Microsoft now, so it
It's
still applies.
yeah. I'm glad they haven't like it has not been rebranded to like Microsoft GitHub. I don't think they have like anyone's ever going to do that, but
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I like the Octocat. There we go.
yeah.
That's a good touch. So let's dive into we'll go back into infomercial voice. The plumbers conference. What is that? For other people don't know what that is.
Yeah, for sure. So, WebAssembly, WASI, all the various things. There are two-ish groups, two big groups, multiple different groups, but two big groups. One is the standards body, which defines the spec, the stuff, the rules. It's under the W3C, and all the WebAssembly things that people come together there. And then there is the Bytecode Alliance, which focuses on implementing the standards. So it doesn't actually. Oh, your camera.
Wrong one. I meant to mute myself, but I turned off.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for the distraction.
No, you're fine. I was more like because you were telling me that like off stream, you were like telling me you had some USB failures. I
Yeah,
was like, oh
my
no.
dock doesn't. Well, my camera doesn't like being plugged into the USB hub that's then plugged into my dock that then is plugged into my laptop because I'm using the MacBook now. But
Yeah. I was
so new
like, oh
dock in
no,
the
it's
future.
happening. But
No,
okay,
that
cool.
was just a fumble on my part.
Good.
But Plumbers Conference, two different bodies.
Yes.
W3, the dev.
W3C for the standards, and
Yep.
then there's the Bytecode Alliance, which is a one implementers group. Various companies come together. Microsoft, Fastly, I believe Intel is part of it. AMD is part of it. Whole bunch of groups together, and they implement runtimes. And we talk about different things. We don't decide on the specs there, but people from the spec groups and people from the actual like runtime impls, they come together and discuss various things. And that happens twice a year. And our second time this year was last week. And so I presented on behalf of the WASI subgroup in the W3C, like our roadmap, roughly, what people can expect, what the process has been so far, recapping the standards process. And then different people from different other groups like came to present other things. We got an update about the WASM time runtime. Um, Andrew Brown from Intel came and presented about the progress, just the progress, both implementation and standardization of multi-threading for WASI. Um, Various other groups like presented different things. There were people doing talking about packaging. There were people, various like little roundtable discussions or like other sessions. A particular one of interest for me was like asynchronous, like WASI 03 and asynchrony. We ended up having like a little side chat that went like for an hour and like 100 or 200 messages. And yeah, we need to follow up on that still. But it was super fun. I couldn't make it in person. I was remote, but a lot
Where
of
was it this
people.
year in person?
Redmond,
Redmond. Okay.
yeah, actually at the Microsoft campus.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah,
I've only been there one time.
I've been there 0 times.
You're a little bit farther away.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it's a little bit more details on the plumbers. So I attended half of the first day, I believe, or most of the first day because I came back in the afternoon too. But so the plumbers part of it is like this. These are
Oh yeah,
the people that are actually they're building the standards, they're building the specs, they're like the very very foundations of it. And so um, me walking into that as just kind of like a user, like no, in no sense power user. Um, I remember I joined the Teams meeting and I'm just like listening to conversations. Like this is a room of insanely smart people, and it was a privilege to be there. A lot of it I didn't quite understand, but I love what Jeffrey Snover once told me about learning new things. He said you
Mm,
just gotta learn to be comfortable with feeling really stupid for a while, maybe
yes.
even a long while, and then
Hmm.
eventually it'll start to click. So I think I leveled up just being a fly on the wall in those conferences. To be real, just hearing these people talk about these things, and then it gives you a good glimpse into what's in the future. So if you want to go really deep down into particular things, like that's a good conference to keep on your radar. Some of the cool things that I pulled out of it were all the advancements that have been coming. So like last time we met, it was like, should we even do OCI artifacts? Like, is that what we should do for WebAssembly components and to be able to put them around? And the answer is yes. And so like there's been tremendous progress in there. There's a spec now that people are following. I think we've discovered that with WASM Cloud. They're following the spec. Spin is using a different config, but I would imagine they're going to converge eventually on that
Yes.
particular spec now that they're. But now like was WebAssembly components are now OCR artifacts, and we can put them in registries and pull them down just like we would. There was a really awesome talk about using the WIT. What's the WIT dependencies part? Well, basically, it's parsing all the dependencies and pulling them down with OCI artifacts.
The
Um,
Whackage tool?
yeah,
No.
the Whackage tool
Oh,
was
okay.
basically just was able because now they're in a registry and there's an OCI spec. It can just look at your WIT file and say, "Here's all my dependencies," and I'm going to pull them down. At runtime, you don't have to necessarily do that by hand anymore. So just a lot of good progress and in that area that I was able to understand a little bit more. So super cool progress to be that I've seen so far on it. But
I'm glad. Yeah, I think you touched on something like just broadly interesting there, which is nobody in that room was like born with the knowledge that they have. Like
Mhm.
everyone there also just like picked stuff up along the way. If you're like interested in like learning anything, like, going to a group of people who are like comfortable with the thing, like willing to share more is a great way of like learning that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm glad you were able to make it because I think I told you it's like offline as well, where it's like it feels good for you to see the standards folks and the implementer folks like all together because that way it doesn't just feel like I am telling you things, but you see like the actual
Multiple
people,
sources.
what
Yeah.
I'm relaying from who on occasion. Um,
No, it was very good. Very good.
yes,
And then I do think there's a WASM comp coming up, a pre-day for KubeCon for anybody that's
yes,
interested for that. I don't have any ties yet. I'm seeing if I can get involved and help in any way, even if it's just like setting up presenters and stuff, because I'll be there most likely.
yeah.
So that'll be fun. But looks like we got one question. Don't know how well we can answer it. But
Ooh,
how does Microsoft use Golang? I can talk to that a little bit, just so people are aware what I've seen. So a lot of the container upstream projects. So like Copus. Basically, to summarize, there's a lot of open source projects that Microsoft contributes to that are Golang that feed into the Azure platform that are used in either AKS or some other features or products or services that Azure uses. There is a Azure SDK, so there's a lot of developers that are obviously primarily using Go in that sense to provide an SDK for Azure. But what I've seen, broadly speaking, Golang is mostly used in a lot of the cloud native services like AKS and stuff where Kubernetes is all written in Go. So anything basically touching AKS, you have a pretty good guess that it's Go based or related. Um, but like more holistically, I can't quite answer. That's just my exposure and experience with working with teams and inside the company that use Golang. I don't have much knowledge to kind of like internal operations of how Go projects are maintained at Microsoft and if there's like standards of processes that they follow. Most of the teams that I've worked with are contributing to open source stuff, and so they have a different set of processes than I would imagine internal teams would. But that's the best answer I can give. I don't know if you have any other 2 cents. I know you're more familiar with Rust, but
yeah. Like my understanding is that at least from internal teams, it's Golang is not the most used within the company.
mhm.
Like we have a lot of C++, C and C++ for like the super low level things. Increasingly Rust there as well. And then for services, kind of depends on team, but historically we've been a C sharp shop.
Mhm.
Am I having that right? Yeah, C sharp.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was like, no, C sharp. So there is a lot of C sharp and C++ within the company, and Golang less. So I
yeah,
don't I
it's a
don't
small
know
portion. Yeah,
exactly.
basically, anything floating around the AKS ecosystem, there's pockets of Go, but if you
Yeah,
look at it holistically, it's a fraction, of like the language that developers would use here. But it's not unused, I would say. So you have that.
I'd be surprised like if any of the major languages. I think we're
We
probably
got to
using
use
all of the languages somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of code, a lot
yeah,
of developers.
yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully that gives some insight into the question there. Thanks for the question, by the way.
Mhm.
Where do we go from here? So we were talking about what were we talking about? Conferences. I think
Yes.
that's where we left off. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's
I'm
nice.
over caffeinated and you're like at the end of your day, so it's an interesting dynamic.
I'm in a weird caffeination spot where I might have had the ADHD effect of caffeine, where
Okay.
it's like, active, 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 zero. Just
Uh-huh.
like you overflow, and now it's like the anti effect.
Yeah, I totally. Whenever I exceed a particular milligram of
Yes.
caffeine, it has the opposite effect. It starts to make me sleepy.
Yes.
I
I
haven't reached it yet today, so
Like what time is it for you? Like I feel
It's
like you
9.
wake up at like 4 a.m. and it's like now 8 a.m. or something.
I wake up usually like 4 or 5, and then
Oh my god.
yeah. So I've been up for like 4.5 hours. Well, today I slept in a little bit because I stayed up late. So I woke up at 5:30,
Oh my
6ish.
god.
But it's 9:30 here, so I've been up for a little while. Went to the gym,
Okay.
came home, did some things, set up my desk. So it
Oh
dawned
yeah.
on me that we were gonna do this morning. I was like, I got a new desk and nothing's plugged in,
That's a good one.
so I better put my desk together.
Yes.
So
Oh, by the way, for people in the audience, if anyone or like if you're seeing like, hey, wait, hold on, a couple weeks ago, like my office looked different. I've also been tinkering with my desk. I moved it around quarter turn, so now I've got a background with books and plants and flowers. And I'm very happy about it. People can see my beautiful curtain, which
mhm.
was meant to be my backdrop, and then like I flipped my table around, and then all you got was like a white wall.
Like
So
mine's not white, but I've at least got books.
yeah, you have so much more going on than I had. Like for a while, I had like the door and then the white wall and then like
Oh, that's true.
camera equipment. It just
Yeah,
didn't look
camera
good.
equipment. That's what it was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Well, we can either dive into a side quest with keyboards, or I guess we could start
I
playing
could
a little
show
bit.
you my keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do that. Wait, can I get my big camera working? I don't think I. So I remounted my top facing cam,
The cat
and
cam.
yes, the cat cam, but I don't know if it's like visible. I don't think it is. No, it's not this one, is it? Nope, that's my computer's webcam. Okay. Okay. Replugged. Does that do anything? It's not detectable, I think. So sad. Because my idea was we had like a proper like top facing cam. I can show you my full desk and you can like see everything like in perspective. Because otherwise I have to like hold it up like this and be like, check it out. There's
It's
things
not
here.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's not working. That is fine. But yeah, I got a new keyboard, I got a new mouse pad, and now it all works together, supposedly. And it is really fun. Do I have a photo? Wait, what if I shared a photo and then did a screen share of that photo so people can like at least see what it looks like?
Well, that would work.
Hold on, can I do that? I don't know if I can do that. So one issue with like switching keyboards is you have to relearn how to like use the keyboard. And I am not doing a great job at that quite yet.
Bit of a learning curve, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
Well, it's not any keyboard, just to be clear. It's a 30-something percent. How many does it have? 36 keys or 38 keys?
Yeah, it has 36 keys. And okay, there's a cat right here. Can we full screen this? It has 36 keys, 6 layers, no, 7 layers. So yeah, hold on, I can explain it. So it's like this, and you have your it's only your finger here that has like 6 keys that it covers. The other have like 3 each, and then your thumb keys for modifier keys. And then when you press here, it's on the other keyboard, it enables a layer that you can like jump to. So I can like press with my right thumb, I press like a key and it says like, hey, or yeah, my right thumb, I press a key. It goes into like the number layer, and this then becomes a number pad on the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're constantly like jumping back and forth, and uses home row mods. So if I press and hold like my index finger here, then it becomes, for example, the shift key. I can do uppercase letters on the other like keyboard. So constantly it's everything's remapped.
Everything's new. Yeah, it's not
Yes.
just a couple things are changed, or you're changing your control key location. Like every single key is changed.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know. Something's enticing about that. I haven't committed myself to it. I'm still on the the HHKB, but I don't know. It's tempting. It's tempting. I'm getting there.
And I got this little mouse pad next to it. So it's can I show it? Yeah. Ooh. Oh yeah. By the way, the back of my keyboard, it's like made out of plexiglass. So you can like look through it, which I think is really fun.
That's super cool.
And my friends from the local coffee shop, they soldered this wire for me together because it was like a split wire. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll fix it." I didn't ask them to like cut it to like size, so it's like a big loop sticking out right now. I got to fix that. And got myself little translucent keycaps. It's really fun. I don't know.
There's a funny shirt that I saw. I was at a camp out. It was one of the older kids. So my son's part
Uh-huh.
of this. It's kind of like a Boy Scouts, just like a camp out type thing, right? But one of the
Yeah.
older boys, he had a T-shirt. He must do a lot of soldering, and so I
Uh-huh.
had a soldering gun with a hand, and it says, um, if you smell burning flesh, you're doing it wrong, or something like that."
Oh no.
Soldering gun. I think that's what it said. But it was pretty funny
Uh, that is really funny. It's
because I've
slightly
burned
disturbing,
myself
but
with soldering gun before.
oh no.
Shop class, always a good time.
You said that was your kid's friend?
So he's part of a group, and so there's all ages. So he was just
Oh, okay.
one of the older kids in a different group. So my son's 9, so he's got a group of kids about his age, and then there's older kids that are also part that help run the camp out and stuff. And so it's one of the older ones with teenage T-shirt humor.
Because I was like, wait, I don't think your kid is like quite like 10 yet. I was like 6, 7. One
He's
of
not-
his friends has a T-shirt like that because that friend is soldering. I'm like, that's people are built different, like wherever you're like living, you know.
Yep.
That's fun. All right. Next stream, I'll have the overhead camera working. I can like give a proper like show. But yes,
Very good.
yes.
I approve.
Probably for this week, I'll be asking you to like type whatever needs typing because I'm still like
It'll be painful.
yeah. That's fine. It's fine. We're switching it up.
Not a problem. So yeah, we could dive into just talking about what we want to build for the sample. And we'll kinda
Let's
do some phases. First, I can just start discussion, and then if we need to pull up some tools or whatnot, we can.
By the way, are you seeing this?
Yeah.
This little leg here, little tail.
Yeah. I saw it enter the scene right in front of the microphone and find its way over to you.
That's right. She loves being here just all day. It's like padding time, little naps, feeling loved.
Gives you stressor throughout the day. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. How do we want to take notes?
I could just pull up like a blank buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. Let me get that going. And we'll put it on screen just so people can see something. Oh, so a little side comment. I've been finding a lot of lo-fi music that remixes video game soundtracks.
Ooh.
So I've been listening to Morrowind, the Elder
Okay,
Scrolls
okay.
type game, and then like Final Fantasy lo-fi has been pretty cool. Let's see here. Window, code, share. There. So we can take notes here
Okay.
if we want. So we want to build a sample GitHub repo. And I think for the application, did you want to use the one that you and Aaron were working on, the kind of V2 of the
Yes.
Hello World, or the WASI Clippy?
Yep. I think we call it Rust WASI Hello.
Rust application would be Rust WASI Hello.
Yep. Dashes in between.
Okay. I can grab a link to that later.
And presumably, as languages like add WASI 02 support, we can like extend this, create different ones. One for .NET, one for Python, one for C, etc.
Okay. So we'll put a little note. Intent to build sample apps with other languages. Just so you can see that it will be agnostic. with this sample, would we be able to demonstrate using it together with other microservices or other languages?
I want to say let's not make that the intent quite yet.
Okay.
We can, we certainly can. Um,
I'm more
because
curious, not in burning like merging the code together and using WebAssembly inside something like Go, but putting it inside an existing application stack where
right,
if you just think of microservices, they're just sending HTTP requests
yeah,
back and whatever. And like the hello world would be, you know, the other service could be, I expect a response and then it gives back whatever. So then it would at least show in a deployment, like a Kubernetes deployment, like here's a container deployment and here's the WASI deployment in the same manifest for the same application deployment. That might
Mm,
be a good V2 step.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is an interesting one. The key of it, like the like basically what that does is it just makes an outgoing HTTP request within the same like cluster. We can definitely make outgoing HTTP requests where we like forward it to like a known service. Um, yeah, let's figure out a way to do that. I thought for a second you were talking about the composition use case
Oh no,
where
no.
you have multiple WebAssembly applications that you statically link together, which is possible. Just right now, without like native async, it is hard.
Mhm.
Unless you make your entire application synchronous, which you shouldn't do. So, um, yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that totally makes sense. More, yeah, I'm more concerned from like if you take my operator's perspective, what is it going to look like and how is it going to be different from a container deployment, right? Like at the very end of it, it's already been built, it's compiled. Like what do I
Mhm.
do with that artifact in conjunction with my other deployments? And so now it's a really smooth story because it's on an OCI registry. Um, so my manifest will either have to use like WASM Cloud or um, Spin or something like that in addition to my typical or traditional container deployment.
Yeah.
So we'll put let's put a question. What other service can we add that would be a container deployment and use or communicate with that app? And we can refine that later. That's a good.
There's a second version of this where I wonder if we should have two versions of this app.
Okay.
One that is like generic, that's like, hey, we're the purpose of it is like to show off how to like create a HTTP service. The second one would be one that is tailored to Azure, where we show here's the service, but not only that, here is how it talks to key value store. Here's how it talks to,
Oh.
like here's how it gets a secret out and like uses that secret to do something. Um,
Okay, because then it just provides you all the services that you would use to productionize your
mhm.
application, and then that story would be more or less the same with Hachi, whatever secret store or whatever key vault or service bus you want to use. But it would
Or
obviously be. Well, I think that's what the WASM
possibly
cloud is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to hide kind of the cloud complexity and allow you to interact with provider services. Is that the intent?
to a degree. So there exists an integration somewhere, and the question is like, does that exist within WASM Cloud fully? And it might. They might want to do that, but it might also be that we need to create that layer ourselves, or we need to like help them do that. Or maybe that is something for one of our partner teams, like because we work closely with the AKS team, where they want to take that on. But the for an end user, if they're like, hey, we want to choose Azure uh,
Mhm.
to do our things in, then we have to have an answer there. But that is a very separate sort of thing from the fully standards based open everything. Rust WASI hello. There's like, okay, we're just gonna like talk to things. And then there's the integration into like Azure. And they're, yeah, just slightly different.
So this might be a good prompt for the
Mhm.
sample. What are the how do I questions that we want to answer?
Yes.
You know, so one
So
of
I
oh, go ahead.
oh please.
Oh, I was just gonna kind of repeat like how do I get a secret from like say Azure Key Vault, or
Yes.
how do I retrieve um, key value pairs pairs from a service like Azure
Mhm.
service. I'm blanking on what's Azure service that would be. Probably many different ones.
I
How
think
do I?
Cosmos handles every single
That's right.
configuration of
That's
things you
that's
could
yeah.
ever want.
Cosmos is what I was thinking of. Blanking. How do I
I still have
deploy?
no idea how that thing works under the hood. Where they're like, yeah, you can use it for KV. Also, we support like MongoDB API. Also, we support a SQL API. I'm like, how did you? How?
Yeah, how is this all a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, you had another one. How do I build or create an HTTP server in WASM? I think that's what you said before for version 1, right? That would be that's kind of the intent of the simple generic version. Or
So
is that a better? Is there a better question for that?
here's what I'm thinking. Oh, got a little coughing cat.
My son is getting terrible at that. He's the grabbiest child that we've had so far, and he
Mhm.
dipped his hands in my wife's coffee the other day. So she just had an open coffee cup, and he went to go and grab it and grab the edge of it, and just put his fingers. And he must have like a pretty high pain tolerance for a
Mhm.
7-month-old. So he just like
Oh
put his
god.
hand in there, and then it was hot, so he let go, and it spilled everywhere. But then he just like looked at us, like didn't really phase him. I was like, oh, this is
Uh-oh.
gonna just wait till he starts walking. Anyway,
Uh-oh.
back to this question for the V1. What's a good question that this would give us as the answer?
I I don't know how to phrase this as questions, but I can tell you what I think we should do.
Okay.
Um, when you're building an application, there are about like 5 or 6 different moving parts you typically want to integrate with. Like, canonical basic application. There'll be more specialized things, but if you can cover these, then you're typically good. The questions are, how do I stick my thing behind a CDN? The second one is, how do I integrate it with like a SQL database? The third one is, how do I deploy the thing? How do I hang analytics or like log storage?
Monitor.
Um, correct. Yes. You know.
Oh, isn't there
Uh,
some kind of framework for this, like 12 point application?
oh, the 12 stage app or
Yeah, is
something.
that similar?
12 factor. I think
12
they use the
factor.
word factor app.
12 factor
Yeah.
app. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how well that still holds, but that was older rage back in the day. I think they made some really good points.
12 factor app principles. Here it is. It's still out. It's still a thing.
Hey.
Let's take a side quest for it. Where did my windows go? There they are. Nope. That's the one. Here, I'll share. If people aren't familiar, I ran into this. Oh man, how many years ago? It's how many years ago has it been? Where's my edge window? Edge tabs. There it is. Ha. Oh, probably at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
I think there's some good advice. I like you said, a lot of it probably isn't verbatim able to hold up today, but there's a lot of good just general
Yeah.
principles like separating your config and your environments, dependencies, code. but somewhat similar. So I'll put
Yes.
that in chat if people want to look at that relic. It's funny how quickly things become relics in the tech industry.
Mm, mm, I don't know if it's a relic. I think it has sharp advice, but then oftentimes people over apply things. Like the idea of agile is not that bad, but then, a lot of it becomes its own thing and it becomes like almost recursive. And then like it steamrolls into something that just isn't useful anymore.
Mm.
Like writing unit tests is like, for a while nobody wrote unit tests, or it wasn't really a common practice. And then it was like, hey, we should write unit tests. And then you had people who were like, I will not write a single line of code if I haven't written test for it first.
Oh,
And it's
just
like,
taking
okay,
everything
that's too
too
much.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the dichotomy? The balance. There's a word for that. Oh, escapes me. Back to notes. Okay, so if we can answer these questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like typically what do you have? You have your compute, you have your database, you have your CDN. Maybe there's a message queue involved. Maybe there's some email involved. There's no email service
I think
that
this is
exists.
a great way to start, at least with the sample app, and then these can all be, next. But this would be a good starting point. Would
Yeah.
we just modify the Rust hello to, like connect to a database and store responses or something like that?
Yeah.
And then deploying, we've kind of talked about, but it'd be good to take our application all the way through that cycle. And then we've got many avenues there. We could, again, touch on Spin and Wasm Cloud, and maybe there's some
Mhm.
other options we could explore, because obviously there's always several ways you can deploy a thing.
Yeah.
And then we'd also be diving into OCI at that point again, which would be good. And we haven't touched on the monitoring of thing, but I've seen some stuff on LinkedIn and Twitter about some of those new things. And I can definitely help more in that area. I like it. I think that's a really, like, just trying to answer these questions.
Yeah.
Puts us in a really good spot. And these are going to be what everybody needs to know.
Yes.
And then we can kind of go into more specific, like you said, with the tailored version.
Yes.
So, okay.
And yeah. Shoot, I had a thought and I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the integrated permission stuff.
Oh, like
It's
the workload identity?
That's the one.
So auth and
But it's not user facing auth, it is service auth.
yeah.
Yeah, workload identity by itself.
Yep. I feel like I should spend a month just learning I know about it, I know how to use it and how to implement it, but I don't know how it does what it does. Exactly. And so I should probably spend a little bit of time diving into that more.
What we can do is we can tell Steve to be like, Steve, you're joining us.
Steve, tell us.
Yep.
Invite Steve.
Yep. Or the other option is David Justice will also like know, because he wrote an integration for this for WASM specifically. And WASM AKS. So he might be the other good person.
I always neglect that. So I don't know. Have you heard of Tim Ferriss?
No.
Okay, so he's got a big podcast, or he used to. I think he still does, but he's like the 4 Hour Work Week and like Tribe of Mentors. He's an author, podcaster guy.
Okay.
Basically, I think his catchphrase is like trying to find the best things to learn and then to share with other people. But anyway, he wrote this one book. It's called The 4 Hour Chef, and it basically, he forced himself to learn something that he had like little to no experience in and kind of a vague interest, which was cooking. And he broke it all down. And like the whole premise of the book was to teach you how to learn a thing and how to deconstruct it. And then like go through the sequences, break it down to a small enough thing that you can learn. And he talks about knife skills and basically gets really meta about the process of learning in the book. It's a pretty good book. But then you get to leave the book with, if you follow through with the activities. I got about like 3 or 4 chapters in, following along with cooking. I only made a couple meals. But anyway, the one thing that I do often neglect is just talking with experts. I tend to over rely on trying to find information and trying to make sense of it in my own brain, where a lot of times that synthesis of knowledge can happen a lot better in conversation.
Definitely. Yeah. It's why access is like such a funny thing, where we have access to so many people who are like extremely good at very specific things. But you gotta like, first know that they have the thing, and second one, like, know that they're happy to actually just like help.
Yeah.
Did you ever like find yourself in a position where you were like, just there just repeatedly was no one to help you with stuff, so you just always had to figure it out on your own?
Hmm.
I'm just wondering if that was ever like a thing for you.
Definitely, to a degree. But I learned early in my, so kind of, this reminds me of my first job. So my first job out of college, I was on a help desk, and my
Mhm.
manager, who knew all the things about the company and the business, he
Yeah.
was also a firefighter. So he only worked
Oh.
like 2 to 3 days of the week, and then the
Mhm.
rest of the time I was just like by myself to figure out whatever issue it was. So there wasn't any like direct person to ask, and that's where I learned about like online tech communities. Like one of them that I was
Ah,
involved in very early on was Spiceworks,
okay.
which is like an IT pro community. It's an IT pro version of Stack Overflow, but I
I
also
see.
found Stack Overflow. And so then I learned to use that as, in absence of people that could help me, I turned to online communities. Um, so that kind of quickly became my default path.
I
But
see.
there is elements or particular problems that you just can't solve that way, because there's too much
Yeah.
business context, culture, and logic that other people wouldn't quite understand. Uh,
Yes.
that you just have to kind of beat your head against the wall until you figure out.
Definitely. Interesting. Interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. What about you? Often?
Yeah. I yeah. A little bit of both. Like I feel like at some point there always comes a point at which you know more than what people can teach you,
Mhm.
or like your direct peers can teach you. And that at that point it's like you should know how to like sort of go from there. And occasionally you like go into places where it's like nobody's been here before. This is truly like new ground, or nobody that you know of has been here before. That becomes very interesting. So like when learning Rust, I failed a couple times, but then I found like a group in Berlin at the Mozilla office who like once a week got together. It was like just, fun time. And there were people who were like really good at it. So I would go there and like ask questions until I got good enough that I, sort of I left orbit, and I still kept going to like help others, but
Mhm.
yeah, I know.
That's, yeah. So the only example, I guess it's something that I've been trying to get back to. So I haven't found myself in that position probably since I started Microsoft, where the exact situation that you described, where like you're a domain expert now in a particular area,
Yeah.
and now you're in uncharted waters, so to speak.
Yes.
And so the last time that I was more or less in uncharted waters was when I was at Stack, and then a little bit before that when I was at a different company doing a lot of the infrastructure DevOps things. The one project that comes to mind was, so desired state configuration is a PowerShell based configuration management platform. It's been used in a lot of different tools, using Ansible and stuff, and it was really new. Um, and I ended up creating a module that
Mhm.
translated it to JSON and back. And so that was kind of now that's actually what the product does. It natively supports JSON, but I wrote the first JSON back and forth. But I had to do a lot of shenanigans deep down, like in .NET and Windows, and like no one had really. There was no one that I could turn to with that, except for the people that knew like C# and .NET super well. Um,
Hmm.
but they hadn't been doing what I was exactly doing with the configuration management aspect. And all the things that pertained. And so I had to draw a lot of inspiration from things that were doing similar things, but not exactly what I was, you know? But ever since I've joined Microsoft, I've pivoted so far away from that type of stuff where everybody around me has been way more knowledgeable in the areas that I've chosen, and so it's been like a catch up learning type thing. So I think it takes a while to get to that place, though. You know, it probably takes at least several years. I think I love this clip. It's from some jujitsu master or whatever he's on Lex Friedman's podcast, where he talks about it takes about 5 years to totally reinvent yourself and kind of level up in a particular area or skill. But I think it does take a while. I feel like I'm just now getting to the point of confidence or competence with the things that I'm now in. But I definitely miss the mastery that came with like really knowing a particular domain well.
Yeah. I think it's fun to constantly like do like new stuff though.
Oh, it is. It is. But it just my only advice there is don't start doing so many new things that you completely debase yourself, right?
Oh yeah.
With your confidence and competence, which I got close to. It's like I did this over here, and now I'm going to go way over here, you know, and do that.
Yeah, I feel like I've got like a really solid base. So for me, it's like I'm getting into like hardware stuff now, and I'm like, I know nothing about it. Like you ask me how a transistor works, I'm like, I kind of get it, but I don't actually get it, you know. But it's like it's okay. I get to learn about that stuff because my livelihood and whatever like doesn't depend on it. Like I'm comfortable with Rust, I'm comfortable with WASM, comfortable in like a number of other like areas, and it's like cool. I get to now learn about like, electronics, and I get to be like horribly and bad at it, and you know, but it's like low stakes. Doesn't matter.
So yeah, so the parallel that I'll draw is, what if you took your livelihood and put it into the electronics?
Yeah,
that would probably feel pretty uncomfortable.
yeah. I did that with Rust, where I was like, I had a very successful like JavaScript career, and I was like, nah. I did a full pivot, and like that was risky, that was scary, but it worked out.
I love those stories, though. I really do, because that's what I did when I joined Microsoft. Was, you know, like I was really good and competent in this area, and then I was like, I've got a lot of years left in my career. I think it's time to pivot,
Yes.
and rebuild that confidence. So I don't regret it at all. But
No,
definitely
doing a little bit of that with my keyboard now too, where it's like, okay, you know, writing the thing that we do all day.
It's hard now.
What if I couldn't do that? How about that? It's like, yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry.
Oh, good side quest.
Yes.
Philosophical side quest.
Yes.
Oh, I think this is. I mean, we're coming up on our hour mark. I don't have too much else, but this is a really good. We can take this and work on basically focus the live streams now on trying to answer these questions, and then putting that into a sample that we can share. I think is a decent path forward.
I want to say,
or what's your ideas?
Yeah, I think these are great questions to answer,
but
I would order them.
Okay.
I would put okay, hold on. So I like I've grown into liking your like your offset baselines.
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I'm gonna try and like say it in like relative lines. Because like rather than saying like absolute line like 11, it's like okay, like one down. So this one here, line 10, I would make the first item. How do we deploy the thing? Then maybe that's the second one, or maybe 2 down is the second one. Don't know. No. No, it was monitor the thing. Because there should be progression here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we can break down how do I deploy the thing into like multiple steps, where it's like
yeah, we could
GitOps is sort of the I feel like that would be the pinnacle of it.
Okay.
Where we, whenever there's like an actual like OCI release, we monitor the releases on the repo. We know how to like pull that, and that becomes the flow. So it's like fully separated with OCI as the connective tissue there.
There's secure supply chain stuff we could do in here.
Yes, that is right.
Stuff.
I feel like workload identity should rank pretty highly too, because that is a dependency for the SQL stuff for sure.
It's actually a deployment question, to be real.
Is it?
Yeah, so because you couldn't deploy it and have it work without workload identity. I mean, if you're doing it that way. So if you were just deploying it and it didn't need to, actually, it'll become an issue when you need to talk to other services, right?
Yes.
So it'll probably be related to the database or some external service that you were worried about. Like say you wanted to grab a key, a secret, you're going to want workload identity for that.
But so then before we can integrate with a SQL database or monitor it, we need to figure out workload identity.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Does this also fall into load balancing? Like CDN and load balancing?
Maybe it could. Oh, there's the I would actually separate the two. There's a how do we create a Azure native like reverse proxy, which is a different question from like how do we stick a CDN in front of this stuff.
Load balance, the thing. Well, another question that comes up, this is just like brain dump, so we can refine, but how do I scale the thing? That's going to be a natural question that follows monitoring. Which I wonder if we talk about the Azure or the AKS automatic stuff that's in there. I talked with Steve with that like last week or something. But anyway, next questions. Do we have any more?
And then there's the secret, retrieving secrets should be on here somewhere as well.
Okay. I keep saving and that's not saved. I should save.
Yes. I mean, in a way, if we like lose it, we can just like run the stream back and like just get that.
Yeah. There's a nice, well, not on Windows anymore, but it's a PowerToys tool. You basically take a screenshot and it'll extract the text from it. Kind of handy.
I feel like Mac OS has that like built in now.
Oh,
so if you like open a photo, there's a little text, a little hamburger menu.
Oh yeah, from the phone. Yeah, you totally can.
Yeah.
That's helpful with like URLs and stuff.
Definitely.
Don't make me type this.
Yeah. Okay. How do we feel about this?
I feel pretty good about it. I mean, this is all on the assumption that the thing's built, right? Which we kind of talked about in a lot of the other streams. So
yeah,
I think that's fine. I would like to at some point build other things with it. Like what are useful things to build in WebAssembly? But that's such an open-ended thing.
The way I'm thinking about this is how do we expose these things to the actual component? And for a number of these, there will be standard interfaces or there will be unstable proposals. And we can work on like combining the things. Like there's I believe there's a WASI Postgres like just interface that exists. It won't be good. It won't be like full-fledged and standardized, or I don't know if it will be good, but like, won't be like a full standard yet because it isn't there yet. But we can try it out and show how that would like look. Same for like logging, same for like secret store. I believe Wasm Cloud has their own like secret store, which is not standard, but it is a thing.
I think those are good to start with because we built the application. We've walked through that story once with HTTP. And so once this is kind of wrapped up, we could go back and maybe things are more fleshed out where we could talk about different things we can do inside the actual component. But these are all great
Yes.
questions because these are going to be the day 2 type questions. Like I built the thing, I learned how to build the thing. What do
Yeah.
I do with the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I'm especially keen on like us answering it from like an infra perspective.
Okay.
From like we have an AKS like cluster. How do we expose these things? How do we correctly like provide them? Because on the language side, like I can work on the Rust integration for this, but not everyone will be using Rust. People may be using Go or C# or any other language, and they will go like on the infra side, like it's the
It's all
same
the
for
same.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I feel good
Okay.
about it.
Yes. And then we're saying we have another stream tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, what do we think we want to start with?
We could start deploying it and just start working on deploying the new Rust WYSI Hello.
Is there a way that we could what do you call it when you check in your deployment structure, Terraform and stuff? What's that called again?
Oh, infrastructure as code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could we create a repo or something where we keep the things in?
Yeah, I mean, we could actually add the Terraform. So if we wanted to, so we could choose. There's going to be a couple things we need to do. One would be to build. It could actually start as simple as just a Bash script with some AZ CLI to keep track.
Mhm.
But if
Yeah.
we wanted to, we could use Terraform. We could use Bicep. I'm most comfortable with Terraform, so I'd probably vote that. And
Okay.
then that would just take care of the provisioning the infrastructure. Um,
Okay.
and then from there, we could add, and that could just live in the same repo as a Terraform folder. And then we could also put in the GitOps stuff. It would have to be in the same repo for the GitOps stuff, but we could use FlickFlux for that. Once we get there, we could use a GitHub workflow most likely for the supply chain stuff, signing the artifacts. Which I'm curious. That'll be a fun
Yes.
dive to like this notation. It should work because it's just a node
Mhm.
CI manifest, but you know,
Yeah. Because like to sort of put like a point on the horizon to work towards is I would love it if we could end up with like two-ish repos.
okay,
One that is like a Rust app, like configured, whatever. You could substitute it for a different language, but that happens to be the language I'm most comfortable with. Um, that is the thing we want to deploy. And on the other side, it's the infrastructure side of things. And both kind of like you press a button, the thing goes live, or you open a workspace, code space for the code.
mm,
But like really make it like so if someone just wants to try a thing out, all they have to do is like click a button or like execute a script or something like that, so that we can start using it for demos or like telling people like, hey, you want to try it out? Here you go, try this out. Like see how it works, or they can deconstruct it into like and make it their own.
that makes total sense. I think my only comment would be you'll for the infrastructure stuff, you'll more than likely want it to be in the same repo as the code. But what we could do is we could offer. I think what you're also saying, it would be nice if it's really easy for other people to use.
Mhm.
Um, and that for that we could have a separate repo that's a template so that like we have this
Yes.
working model that we can demo and it's got some of the pieces that you can't generalize, so to speak, unless you put a variable, but then someone else needs to fill it in. But
Yeah.
that's the perfect use case for more or less cloning our sample and then making it a template. And then that template just walks you through like you need this variable, you need to do this provisioning or like modify the workflow in this way. But it's all
Yeah.
kind of parameterized in a template. So they just clone the template repo and then they modify it and it'll work in their environment. So I think what we could do is start with the repo, build it out, and then we could look at the repo and say, how could we take this and turn it into a template repo um, for other people to use? And then if they have questions, they can obviously go back and look at the sample. But
Can we add that as a goal somewhere here where we say like,
yeah,
the goal is to create a template repo for I guess WASI based
sample app.
infrastructure on AKS.
Okay, I like that specificity. If I said that correctly.
Yeah. and we can complement this and like figure things out, but like indeed that way people can like they copy the template, make it their own, do what they want with it.
Mhm.
Because the Rust WASI Hello app, thanks to Aaron, like our colleague, it's also a template now, so people can just clone that and like do their own thing with it. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good. Okay.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Can work on
Okay.
refining those, but this is a good start. I like it. Good brainstorming session. Got some good direction now, I think.
I think so too. I think so too. And tomorrow we can create the repo and start figuring out how we deploy things.
Yeah, we'll just work through it. We'll probably touch on putting artifacts up there, how to get it, how to build a workflow. Probably start with the workflow, to be honest, and like build the component and push it to the registry.
Yeah.
Because anything else hinges on that. So that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah. So that should already work. The Rust WASI Hello app like already has that, pushes it to a registry. So, but we can walk through it. I can show you how it works.
Yeah. Well, if we'll do the template, we'll have to change where it's going and stuff. But okay.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. All right.
Very good.
Cool.
Right.
Excited. Hey, we did a planning session. Hey, we're so organized. If anyone's like,
yeah, go ahead.
if anyone's like wondering, like, what is software development like for like any kind of project? It starts with something like this. Like, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a discussion and thinking?
Yes.
All the features I've noticed, I've come to accept, like all the features that I've written for Ratify that I've been working on. Not that many, but usually it's the first week is just reading code and understanding the problem, not typing a single thing in the code base, and then putting together a design doc to articulate the problem. And then you get pushed back on your understanding of the problem. You get to understand the problem better, which is great. And then week 2, you get to write maybe some code.
Yes. And then you write the code and then you're like, oh, actually, I missed even more things. Then you like go back. And,
Yes, that's the exact cycle. But I really enjoy it. It's fun. It's a fun cycle. I'm glad I got to do that for work.
Yes.
Problem solving. All right. Well, we'll end it there. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Same time, 9 a.m. Central Time. I think it's 4 for you.
Yep. 4 p.m. European summertime. I think we have like one more week of that. I don't know when we switch over. Maybe 2. But yes.
All right. We'll see everybody then. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Talk to you later. Bye.